Hello everyone. I want to talk about shotguns and then the Classified LMG. People think the Classified LMG is the stoner LAMG. Okay. People have been picking up the Origin 12 as ground loot, then making loadouts with it. I have no idea why, but I'll go and entertain it briefly. Shotguns in Warzone were changed a long time ago. It used to be that they could do one shot, one knocks, but then they made it so it's two. It has to do two. You can even see that here with the VLK Rogue slide I put up. So, as you can see with that slide, it's capped to 204 damage. The maximum possible HP in Warzone is 250. That's assuming 3 armor plates plus base health. So yeah, you can see that it does have a cap. Another thing too to keep in mind is that shotguns have a tighter spread if they're aimed down sight. You'll even notice that here it says base ADS. So this was measured with the ADS in mind. Most people aren't aware of that. A lot of people just pick up a shotgun and hip fire it. But that's not the full story. Shotguns, while you can hip fire it, there are certain scenarios where you're going to have to aim down sight. Mastering a shotgun requires you to know when to do those two things, whether to hip fire or whether to aim down sight, and how to lead the target. The pellets themselves travel much slower than most guns, so you have to be very on top of that. But let's say that you've figured all that out. Then the VLK Rogue is going to be the shotgun that would have the best chance of being viable in Warzone. There's a reason for this. If you'll notice it with its 16-inch Warlord barrel paired with a Forged Tack Marauder will actually bring its two-shot range out to about 16.25 meters. That's going to be more effective range than even the MP5, but as I said, pellet spread does travel very slowly. So the only times that you will ever see a VLK Rogue shine is with somebody that has aim and understands that you should only ever be using it for buildings. If your target is in a stairwell, a hallway, or somewhere where they can't move much, then that reduces the amount of times that you will miss a spread. So I did put a VLK Rogue build in my additional Warzone document for people who want to knock themselves out. Feel free to. I, for one, do not recommend it, but there you go. Okay, so people think that the Classified LMG is this, the LAMG from Knights Armament. Knights Armament is a great company. They've made a lot of good guns. You'll probably recognize the SR-25, which is now called the M110 in the military. They made that. So Knights Armament is definitely not new to the gun making business. But I have a bunch of expectations from the LAMG if it is indeed that. To understand my expectations, let's go over here. You'll probably notice this if you visited my document, but it says sprint out time is the amount of time it takes to go from a full sprint to firing your weapon. This is a direct quote from Ace. Most people aren't aware of that mechanic, and that's due to the fact that people are a bunch of sheep for the most part in this community. They copy the pros, not realizing what they're doing, and for that matter, the pros not realizing what they're doing. You see, pros only look at the pros and cons in the attachment page itself. They're not looking at the mechanics. I've only met one pro who actually has looked at this stuff, and I've had conversations with them about it. But every other pro that I've talked to, or at least their mods, they have no idea what standard sprint out time is. They have no idea what effective range is. None of that. They have no idea what that is. So that's a problem because we can't ask the devs for certain things if we don't know what to ask for, right? I know what to ask for, but you all don't. So you all need to be the ones to educate yourself on this stuff so you can ask for a gun that actually fits the game. I digress. Anyways, you'll notice for comparison's sake, we're going to do the PKM, S87, and then the AK. So the PKM is 334 millisecond standard sprint out time, and the S87 is 284. This is why I was saying the S87 is an aggressive LMG, because its standard sprint out time, paired with its decent mobility, makes it very good at being aggressive, to a certain degree. To show you what I'm talking about, look at this. Your standard AR standard sprint out time is going to be 267. So you can see the S87 is not that far off. So, if they do add the LAMG to the game, then I would hope that it has good standard sprint out time. I mean, it is a very lightweight machine gun, and a very small one too. I would expect it to have good range and mobility, as an LMG would, of this nature. And as far as everything else, I would say maybe good ADS time. Right now, there's not a lot of options for LMGs that have belts, at least ones that are viable. Because you'll notice the PKM is the only one that I have found to be viable for Warzone that has a belt. And even then, it's still pretty slow. It's 425 milliseconds with 86% movement speed and 334 millisecond SOT. So it's not exactly ideal for belt. But if this could bring in something that would be ideal for belts, mobility, and that kind of stuff, then that's what I would love to see. What I wouldn't like to see is if they bring in this. The AMG is basically the bigger version of it that fires 7.62 NATO instead of 5.56. I pray they don't do this, because I've noticed that Call of Duty tends to kind of follow the stats to a certain degree. I mean, not to the letter, but somewhat near there. So you'll notice this only has 500 to 525 rounds per minute. That's going to be slower than even an AK. So I pray that they don't put this in. I don't mind if they use the barrels from this, because it says it can field 16 to 22 inch barrels. This can only have 15 inch to start out with, so I guess for mod's sake, you could probably just have some more barrels with it. Though I will say one thing that's not mentioned here is if the RPM is changed if using 6.5mm Creedmoor, because you can see that right here, 6.5 Creedmoor. I mean, if the RPM is changed because of 6.5mm Creedmoor, then I can see bringing in the AMG. But otherwise, no. Just stick to the LMG. It's pretty comparable with most guns. You can see it can go up to 600 rounds. So I would say stick with the LMG. Maybe use the barrels from the AMG, but don't put the AMG in. That's the short version. I guess we can do a real quick comparison here to show you why I was thinking all that. So you notice it says 5.1 kilograms. Compare that to the M249, and that's 7.5 kilograms. Now, that's before belts are on. So this already has a little over 2 kilograms of weight reduction to kind of throw around for a belt magazine. This does not, so you'll notice that it gets out to 10 kilograms when it's loaded. This will probably be around 8 or 9 with its belt on. So you can see that it's very light, and that's why I was saying good standard sprint out time and good ADS values. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see where things go, but that's kind of my thoughts on it. Thanks for listening.